when he made the All-Star team, I was surprised. I was stunned. I was like, this guy.
He is most certainly the least exciting person on the list.
I don't think he is overrated. He is overrated.
Yeah, incomparable. The performances these two players are putting up, it's nowhere close.
How much of a problem do I have with calling him overrated? Not much.
That's the question that everyone asks, right?
Hey everyone, and welcome to an all new episode of All About Sports, the podcast. I am your host Mazhar here today, and I have my co-hosts Rishabh and Aniket as well. And today we're bringing our first ever pure basketball episode, and we'll be discussing the NBA, of course, and something very interesting in the NBA. It's going to be all about, well, the overrated players or so-called overrated players. I think we're going to have some sort of fiery discussion around this for sure. We already were struggling to sort of come up with our list ourselves, and we ended up spending almost an hour in just discussing that. So we're in for quite a ride right now, uh, and we're all strong-headed, opinionated people, so it wasn't easy. But hope that the list adds up to a lot of your expectations as well. So let's not delay it. Let's get right into it. So we've picked out five particular names that we have shortlisted for the most overrated players, at least after the conclusion of last season. And the first name that we want to bring up, and we are going from 5 to 1, is uh, Jamal Murray. So Krishnan seems very excited to share his opinion, so I'm just going to give it to Krishnan right away. So Krishnan, what's your take on Jamal Murray, and why did you decide to have Jamal Murray on the list?
No, I think Jamal Murray is a good one to start with, because I think we discussed this. His stock is probably at an all-time high right now, right? Jamal Murray and the Denver Nuggets are coming off a great season, right? I don't know how many people bet on them reaching the playoff finals, and the season specifically that Jamal Murray had, putting up awesome numbers offensively and coming back from 3-1 twice in one playoff stretch is insane. So my whole concern with Jamal Murray is inconsistency. He had an unbelievable playoff stretch, and I think for the first time we've seen him consistently back-to-back have good offensive games. I don't trust that will be him going into next season, or in fact what he can be as a person. Denver's placed a lot of faith in him. Last year he agreed to a 5-year $170 million contract, so they made him their go-to player. He is supposed to be their number two with Nikola Jokic, and I just don't trust he can show the same consistency on the offensive end like he did in this playoff stretch. I don't believe he can be the player he's said to be. Looking back at some of his prior seasons with Denver, while they are impressive, I'm not particularly blown away by them. His first season he was 9.9 points, 16.7 in his next season, 18.2, 18.5. For a guy who's not really good defensively, whose meat is offense, he's got to be like a 20-25 point per game scorer, and he's not consistently reached that stage for me. What do you guys think?
So I think what Krishnan said in terms of him having one of the most iconic short span performances we've ever seen, because those two series which he played in the bubble, amazing, right? You think that he was carrying the team all on his own. Okay, not all on his own, but he was one of the two who were performing consistently game after game, barring one or two bad games, of course, because they were 3-1 down twice. So, yeah, I mean, think about it. That level of offensive performance, is that his best, or is it something he can produce consistently? I mean, one could argue that he's just hitting his stride or his peak right now. But okay, I don't think it's very easy to repeat those kind of performances in the regular season. The regular season is a different ball game as opposed to the playoffs, right? When your back's against the wall, maybe some people stroke players, some players stroke teams do much better in those scenarios as opposed to the regular season. And again, I'm not saying that, of course, I do understand that you have to play well enough in the regular season to get to that stage where your backs are against the wall in the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, his shining moments were in the playoffs as opposed to the regular season. So I agree with Krishna.
So, of course, we sort of unanimously agreed that Jamal Murray is overrated. It's not a knock against him. It's just unfortunate, or I'm not even sure unfortunate is the right word, but basically it's just a situation that his performance elevated his rating to. Uh, like you guys mentioned, and I think Krishnan brought that out perfectly, he averaged less than 20 points during the regular season, and in fact, throughout his career has done so. But his points per game in the NBA bubble went up to 26.5 points per game. Of course, he played a lot more minutes. And I also think that some players are just better against certain teams because of matchups and all of that. We can't ignore the fact that Jamal Murray played many more minutes as well in the bubble. So that also added an element. Another thing to not forget is how good a coach Mike Malone is. He knew how exactly to structure the team around Jokic, and he knew that Jokic needs a good ball handler. Murray is not a great ball handler, but he's a scorer. And he knew how to play the pick and roll or whatever sort of adaptation they had of a pick and roll, the modification in their system. Basically, kick it to Jokic, tries to play in the post, tries to spin, make some circus shot. Obviously, worked many times. But it credit to Murray for making all those big shots. That if he probably didn't do the dance against the Lakers, maybe they could have snatched up one more game. I think that really angered or sort of aggravated a Lakers side, and then they just absolutely steamroll them. But um, I agree with you guys simply because, and I think we all three also uh, agreed on the fact that defense matters a lot to us in a basketball player because it's not like a football game where you can be a striker and just be isolated and not really have to perform defensively. The difference in basketball is you have to run up the court and run back. And they say defense wins you championships in basketball, and there's no doubt about it. You will never find a pure offensive team win the championship. I don't think it's ever happened where a team that is only stellar offensively and really fails to perform on the defensive end as a defensively elite team wins the league. So,
Yeah, so Denver's
um,
never winning ever.
exactly, Denver's never winning. So, I think you guys pretty much summarized that perfectly. And it's unfortunate that Murray has to be on the list because it's not his situation that got him there, or rather his play that got him there. It's just that he peaked in the playoffs, and even if he keeps up that consistency during the regular season in terms of scoring, uh, I don't think that's enough to suggest that he's any sort of all-star because I still think he's a bit of the pace of a Donovan Mitchell, even though he ended up winning that series against Utah. Uh, it's just because even Mitchell's not great defensively, mind you. He obviously lost to, I mean, they both went on that onslaught of scoring 50-40, 50-40, whatever they were doing in that playoff series between Utah and Denver.
Yep.
But I still see that effort from Mitchell on the defensive end. I just think that Murray uses too much energy in offense that he just drains out by the end of it. Uh, Hoping he gets better on that end of the floor. Mike Malone is the perfect coach, I feel, for him in terms of sort of getting that out of him.
Yeah.
But let's see.
No, I agree, and I think all of us are hopeful. I think we all really enjoyed him playing this bubble, and he's a fun player to watch. But the optimism of him being that way seems low. And I think going with him, I think a good transition to another person who's on a big contract from 2019. Um, Tobias Harris is our number 4 player that we want to bring up with the Philadelphia 76ers. um Maybe the least exciting person on this list. Maybe what do you guys think about Tobias? Why is he on our list?
I I don't know what I think about Tobias when but you said maybe he's the least exciting person on the list. He is most certainly the least exciting person on the list. I know how much Maz dislikes him, so I'm going okay, not dislike, but thinks he's
Yeah,
overrated. Okay, dislike is a very strong word, not to be
I don't
used.
think so. Gui, yeah, I don't think he is. I don't think he is overrated. He is overrated.
Yeah.
I think I think he had that one season where he made the All-Star team, yes, deservedly so, but I think that was like literally a one-off case where he just had the season of his life, and he was fortunate enough to have such a season that, and it's crazy how people just jumped on that saying, "Oh, he deserves a max contract." And I watched his games, and I watched a lot of his games that season live. I saw so when he made the All-Star team, I was surprised. I was stunned. I was like, this guy. Literally, that was my reaction. And I just couldn't understand why, because it's not like he was the only scorer. It's not like he was the only pure scorer that season as well. People score points in bunches. You are in an average team and you're an above average player, you'll score 20 points. That's why the Lakers really did not like the fact that Brandon Ingram was not producing good results, and that's why they let go of him and kept Kuzma in, because they just felt that he was not he wasn't scoring 20 points a game, and you expect that from someone like a Brandon Ingram, especially given his size, the mismatch that he creates in a basketball game. And I think that's where Tobias Harris loses out a lot. Now, perfect reason to like describe his overrated features is the points per game over his career. He averages just about 16 points per game, which is, I mean, by no means is outstanding or stands out. Last season he averaged close to 20, but it's not like his efficiency from the field is low as well. 47 is by no means bad, but I just don't see it. Like, what makes him get that max contract that Krishnan brought out, right? And I mean, guys, I don't even want to get into the playoffs. It's just like absolutely pathetic and dismal his performance in the playoffs. So I'm just going to leave it on that. I'm not going to go into the stats because I'm not the stats guy. That's pretty much you guys. So that's just my take. Watching as a fan of the game, it's not that I have anything personally against him or against his teams for that matter, but uh, it's just how it is.
Yeah, so the deserving of a max contract bit is a big point because okay, Gordon Hayward has a max contract. He, as much as you would think that he's not lived up to it, he was injured for a lot, and when he did come back in the playoffs, played well. I think he played really well. Again, he has he has more time to justify his max contract as opposed to Tobias because Gordon Hayward was injured for a while, right? And to like jump right into the middle of a playoff series, big, big. So if if I had to pick between two max contract uh, players who aren't doing okay as you would have expected them to do after those contracts, but Tobias is definitely performing worse of the two, if
and
you ask me.
and I love the point you'll bring about money, because let's look at the person the Philadelphia 76ers lost this summer. Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has signed with Miami on a 4-year, a 142 million deal. So per year, he's getting about 35.5 million. If the math I did on my calculator is correct, hopefully calculators can't be wrong. Um, Whereas Tobias Harris is getting 36 million per year. So Tobias Harris has a longer contract and he's getting more money per year than Jimmy Butler, who just carried Miami or was a big part of taking Miami to the NBA Finals. It is just an incomparable the performances these two players are putting up. It's nowhere close.
You know,
Krishnan,
you
and
know,
the
you
best.
hesitate. Yeah, sorry, man. Sorry, go for it.
No, so I was just going to say that Krishnan used the perfect example. We're talking about the most overrated players here. So we have Tobias Harris on one side, and if you have any sort of doubt of uh, or any sort of argument to state that he isn't overrated, Jimmy Butler is one of the most underrated players in the league. So perfect example, Krishnan, nail on the head with that one.
Yeah, I mean, Krishnan hesitated in saying that Jimmy carried the heat, right? But by all means, the leadership he brought to that side, you could make a case that he did actually carry them, maybe not with sheer numbers in his performance, but if you look outside the
No,
stats, hard
yeah,
carry, if
exactly.
you ask me.
Exactly. And the perfect example is the fact I was watching one of these NBA documentaries. I think it was on TV or I'm not even sure, YouTube. But Tyler Hero, we all know his relationship with Jimmy Butler. But not only him, Bam Adebayo, uh, uh, Duncan Robinson, they all came out and openly said it that Jimmy's our guy and Jimmy's our leader. And we look to him. We basically learn from him and take a lot from how he is off the court as well. And he's the prime motivator of the squad. And if your teammates are saying that, then I mean, literally. So if he doesn't have that mentality, then the team falls short of that character. So definitely he's carrying the team in other ways beyond just the basketballing sense and the basketball stats that prove it. So
And
you're absolutely right.
and again, this is flowing pretty nicely because I like the way we finished about leadership. When we talk about leadership, let's talk about a guy who I think was probably the most hotly debated who's on this list. A guy whose leadership we question. Kyrie Irving. Can he be a guy who takes a team to an NBA championship without LeBron? That's the question that everyone asks, right? That's the thing he gets criticized for. He's like, you had LeBron, and listen, he's a great player. I'm not gonna at all question him being a great player, but can he take that next step in leadership, to be a like forefront leading player and take his team to a championship? What do you guys think, Kyrie Irving?
I debated this a lot just for everyone listening in. I did not like the fact that Kyrie is on this list, but I understand it, and I have to own up that it's a fair point that Aniket and Krishnan had in terms of saying that Kyrie is overrated. My argument on the fact that you said that can he win without, let's say, a LeBron, and can he be the leader? Well, we've not seen that with a lot of players and a lot of teams, so I wouldn't necessarily want to criticize him or critique him for him being overrated because of that. But the thing is that he is outspoken. He does claim to be the guy, the front, like the alpha sort of guy for his franchises. And well, he didn't live up to the bill. He joined the biggest franchise in the NBA with the Celtics and failed to do so. And I Krishnan brought this to my notice, and it I didn't really pay heed to it, and that's also because I rate Kemba Walker highly. But the fact that the Boston Celtics haven't changed much, say, before when Kyrie was there and to now. So, and the Celtics made the Eastern Conference Finals uh, this 2020 season. So, uh, yeah, I guess that's where I couldn't debate anything.
For me, the whole, I mean, he is one of the best individual players, right? Like, does anyone question his ball handling? No. Does anyone question the sheer genius he could bring on the court? No. Okay, but if I had to draw an analogy, okay, just I mean the my whole issue is how highly he gets regarded for those aspects. This is like saying again, I'm sorry if someone doesn't watch football, stroke soccer, but this is like saying that Neymar is in the same breath as Ronaldo and Messi because he is so prolific on the pitch, and that doesn't sit right with me. Not the Neymar comparison, not the Kyrie comparison. So for me, Kyrie is so far behind KD as a player, but look at how highly he's regarded. That bothers me a bit. That and for me, his individual performances, leadership, all of those things, like the whole claim that I am the guy. I mean, Mazhar said it very well. Like he claims to be the one. Like I am going to lead the franchise on the court. Never happened, but okay, a lot of people fall short of that. Loads, and but to me, it's more the outside perception of Kyrie by a lot of other people saying he is one of the best players in the NBA. I think not. That's
I'm glad you brought that up because I think I think of two comparisons for Kyrie that kind of bother me, and I think I think the one comparison is Kyrie Irving to someone like a Kobe Bryant, right? I don't think, I'm not saying that he's as individually talented as Kobe Bryant. I'm not saying that, but what I think is Kyrie Irving individually has probably nailed his skill set, but he hasn't taken the next step to figure out how do I now use my skill set to get everyone involved in the game and to start winning at the highest level. And that next step, I don't think he's taken just yet. And I think one example of it that really bothered me was I remember a game when he was playing with the Celtics where I think Gordon Hayward took a shot at the end and he couldn't get the pass out to Kyrie. And Kyrie kind of like was like frustrated and anxious at it. And I just think he hasn't developed the ability to be the team player that makes the team grow and build around him. That I think, like Mazhar mentioned, even Kemba has sort of done. Because I don't think there's a comparison individual talent wise. I think Kyrie is way more individually talented than a Kemba Walker. But Kemba has found a way to make that Celtics team gel, I think, is slightly better than Kyrie was able to. And that's a bit of a critique on him.
Yeah, I just again, Krishnan, Kemba, I feel is another one of those underrated players. I think by underrated, I don't mean like he's underrated in terms of his skill. Everyone knows his level. There's a certain level to it where he falls short of superstardom, but he's definitely all-star. He's an all-star point guard, and the fact that he carried Charlotte for donkey's years, a team which was way below playoff caliber, and
Yep.
pretty much, I know they were on the East, but still, like, credit to him for managing to figure out something there. So that takes me into the next player, and I think this is pretty much a unanimous thing for anyone who watches the NBA, and it's from my favorite teams. Favorite, the Clippers. Oh my God, Patrick Beverly. So Krishnan Gui, take it away.
For those of you who don't know, Mazhar is a Lakers fan. So Pat Bev and him are definitely beefing.
On Twitter, I keep sending him trash, but obviously I'd never get replies. So
I think
through message like that.
he's going to go with the Cancun jibe again or something of that sort is gonna
With
happen.
me, dude, I can't even afford to go to Cancun, so I don't even know what his plan is with that. Anyway, yeah. So Patrick Beverly, guys.
No, I think P. Bev is a good one because I think we've talked about so many offensive players. It's fun to talk about a guy who's mostly known for his defense. I mean, let's forget about the offensive conversation because no one really rates him as that high in offensive play. At best, he's like a catch and shoot 3-point player who they're like, yeah, he worked well at Houston and like Clippers because he can catch and shoot. And he's a decent point guard, like he's a decent distributor. But what he's known for is his defense. And that's why we think he's overrated, is we think his defense is a little more highly overrated than he's considered. And He's a good defensive player. We can't deny that. But how good is he? He was named this year in the second all defense team. Um, and that to me is a little bit too good for him. And the reason I think that is, I think one of the big players that people shouted out was Drew Holiday. And people spoke so much about how Drew Holiday can switch positions. He's one of the best guard defenders. Dame brought it up. I can't remember. I think LeBron even brought it up. A few different players brought it up. And I think Patrick Beverley is a person who has become synonymous with iconic defense because he talks a lot and he gets in people's faces. I don't necessarily believe he's as good a stopper as he tokens himself to be. And I think his aggressiveness, the number of fouls he gets, puts his team in a difficult position. And in the cases that he gets ejected, again, it's a loss to his team. So I just don't think he's the elite defensive player he claims himself to be. I don't know what you guys think.
I'd agree with that. I think he gets extra points for chatting and clapping in people's face, and all the talk from the bench and getting subbed on, off. All of those things kind of play into him becoming this, defensive, bad man personality who's just like, oh, I should be, kind of petrified because this guy's not only, great as a defender, but he's gonna keep just bugging me by, getting close to my personal space, invading that space, chatting shit for way longer than he should to begin with. I mean, if he consistently defended as well as he could without getting ejected, without conceding the number of fouls, maybe he's not that. Maybe we don't put him in the overrated bracket, but he does have flaws in the defensive game. It's again one of those things, right? If you just tone down all the things which go around the actual work you put in, he would be a much better player. How much of a problem do I have with calling him overrated? Not much, because again, brownie points for the clapping and talking is what he gets. Most people don't.
So, dude, I don't even know where to start with him. Like, I know people talk trash. Embiid does it. Embiid also gets onto my nerves a lot of times. But it's the problem. The difference is Embiid is still due to be a superstar. He's already an all-star. The talent is clearly visible. He is he is stellar in pretty much ev- everything on the offensive end. Beverly has nothing. Like, he prides himself on his defense. Harden treated him, took him to the cleaners. Absolutely took him to the cleaners. Harden made him look like an absolute fool, firstly. And that's just, and it's not only Harden, okay? We've, he's lucky that Steph and Clay were out for the entire, most of the season. They didn't play against each other. He would have put them on skate, they would have put him on skates as well. So, I just don't think he can match up to pure shooters, firstly. Uh, he's good against average guys. Of course, he's not bad defensively, but he's not even like absolutely elite or something. And Krishnan, you're right. I don't think he deserved that all defensive second team for sure. At least not this season. I can understand the previous seasons, but his cockiness for what, right? Like, why, dude? You've never won a championship. Firstly,
Yep.
you you chat shit with people like Damian Lillard. You are not even in the same league as Alex Caruso at the moment when it comes to defense, buddy. Danny Green, as much as people criticize him for his brick shooting, especially it's frustrating for the Laker fans. Um, he's still miles ahead of you defensively. So don't even get into defensive talk when your team firstly got knocked out by Denver Nuggets, who are a pure offensive team. Look at the irony there, right? So I'm sorry, but yeah, as they can chat shit, they can claim whatever. Oh yeah, we could have beaten these Lakers. Just got lucky that we lost to the Nuggets. Listen, no, you were just undeserving because you were overconfident and you thought you were better than the rest. And the Nuggets just proved that, hard work takes you much further than your attitude and your so-called skill, which I really think he lacks. So,
And
yeah.
I think Maz, I like the point that you brought up that was a little bit frustrating. Both of you brought up actually about what's a little bit frustrating about Patrick Beverley is I'm okay with trash talking. I'm okay with getting people's faces. That's your system. That's fine. But he's had a couple of instances where he's made really dangerous play at people's knees or ankles. Like Russ has gotten injured by him. I think Steph also had like an injury scare or got injured by like a dangerous play. That's not something I particularly enjoy, whether it's part of your system or not.
No, no. So that brings us to number one. Now, the funny thing is that we actually didn't have any debate on this. We all had this name on our list, and it's going to come to a surprise to many. But it's Russell Westbrook. So take it away.
So Brody, amazing, ath- one of the most athletic players we've seen in the recent past. Again, no, how many players could hold a candle in front of LeBron and call themselves as athletic, even just as athletic? I'm not even saying more. Even to be compared in the same bracket of athleticism on an NBA court as LeBron is a lot, right? And Russ can do it every day of the week. But again, there's just too much props for that one thing. For as prolific as he is, with all the flashy dunks, great moves, uh, some even absolute blinders. You can't come. I don't know. It's just the reward for being that athletic cannot be you being considered in the great or elite bracket. It's again Pat Bev, great defense. It's just I, I don't know how to put it very well, but the flashiness is should never be a contributor to how great your value is on the court. That's my take on Russell Westbrook.
No, those are great points, Gui, and I think we had this discussion a little bit with Kyrie as well. And the argument isn't whether Russell Westbrook's a good player. He's a good player. He's a great player. The question is, can he take that next step again? And the thing is, I know when he won his MVP, if I'm not mistaken, I think Jordan wrote him a letter saying like, "Hey man, I just want to say congrats. I too won my first MVP before I won my championship." And that's really where Russell Westbrook has to evolve. Like, how does he now become a player who can get his team at the highest level, right? Let's compare him to the other MVPs we've had more recently. Giannis Antetokounmpo, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. I don't think any of us would say he's in the same ballpark. He just isn't. Even in his best season, his team finished seventh in the league and got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. So he's not taken the next step to become to make his team win. And I think one thing that like I think he's been a little bit pigeonholed by is maybe he's not necessarily had the best coaching historically. I think he needs a really elite coach on his team. And for a brief glimpse, I thought we saw like the best Russell Westbrook in Houston. Because he had this glimpse when they made him sort of like play as a center, don't shoot threes, just drive in. Everyone else around you will shoot. And we saw maybe the best Russell Westbrook, and D'Antoni found the best Russell Westbrook we could get. And then unfortunately he got injured. But I think like you said, I think the things that the things that he falls on, I think are one, I don't think he's an elite decision maker. I don't think in some clutch moments he takes the best shots, he makes the best passes. And his second flaw, I think, is his focus. Like Gui said, he has all the attributes. He's one of the most athletic guys we've seen in the NBA, probably will see in the NBA. And to just see his defensive engagement is frustrating. And it's not even that he can't guard guys, he switches off. There's a moment where he loses where he is in the pick and roll. He goes for steals and he misses. He isn't tracking back the right way. Um, and he can do it because there are moments where he locks in and he's good. but those two things just make it frustrating to watch him because, like we said, he has the toolkit to be an elite player.
You guys left nothing for me to really say. I'll just say one thing that I wanted to add, and the MVP season. Firstly, credit where credit's due. The most triple doubles since Oscar Robertson. Unbelievable. Of course, I do feel there was a lot of padding involved in that in terms of padding stats, where he would like literally just keep throwing passes till he would get double-digit assists if he was falling short of it, or like just go in for rebounds and steal rebounds from his teammates.
Yep.
Not as ugly as it looks, but I mean there were moments, and for all of those who watched those games in that season would understand it. It was 2017, I believe.
I think
So
so. Yeah.
yeah, but I think the one thing, and you guys both brought up those aspects, is that firstly, he's flashy. So he's great to watch. I love watching him on the offensive end. Defensively, like you said, Krishnan, he just closes off, and that's worrisome.
No, that's exactly it. So our final list was Jamal Murray, Tobias Harris, Kyrie Irving, Patrick Beverly, and Russell Westbrook. Let us know what you all think in the comments. Hit us up on social media. Let us know your thoughts. I'm sure this is a hotly debated topic. Let us know what you think. And like and share if you enjoy this video. Thanks so much for watching, everyone.